I feel like the past 24 hours has just been a complete nightmare. 104% on imports coming from China. 104%. And that means my small business that I put everything into is fucking done. I quit my corporate job about a year and a half ago to chase my dreams. I designed and launched a kids fitness brand, and it was going great. I paid fair wages. I built relationships. And then overnight, the cost just more than doubled. My margins were gone. You know, my business doesn't pay for a yacht or a private jet. It pays for our daughter's swim classes. It covers groceries. It helps with babysitters for date nights. This isn't just numbers on a policy sheet. It's real people, real jobs, real families. And now I'm back at square one. So wish me luck.
3 times voted for tariffs. 3 times. While running an import business from China. And now he's crying on TikTok about his daughter's swim classes. Here's what gets me. He said real people, real jobs, real families. And he's right. But did that thought ever cross his mind when other families were getting torn apart? When people were losing health care? When Social Security was on the chopping block? Their families are real too, my guy. You thought the pain was only for people you don't care about. Now you're learning. Consequences don't check your voter registration before they hit.
So have we seen this guy here? So evidently he is a Trump supporter. He voted for Trump all 3 times. And he has a small business where he exports, I guess, wheels from China. And he is upset because the new tariffs that have been placed on China will drastically hurt his business. So he took to TikTok and complained about that. And then when people said, well, I'm sorry, you fucked around and found out, this is the find out part, he came back on and crying, well, not literally crying, but complaining and whining about how people are taking joy in him and his family's suffering. This man is a 3-time Trump supporter. He was aware the tariffs were going to take effect. He just thought that somehow magically Trump would have in place the infrastructure that manufacturing could be switched here to the United States before the tariffs took an effect. So obviously he has no clue what kind of commitment that would take and what kind of time frame that would take. That's not something that was going to happen in the first year of Trump's presidency or any of the years of Trump's presidency. It's going to take a good decade if we truly try to switch manufacturing from overseas back to the United States, and not to mention the cost of goods being manufactured in the United States. So he's on here crying that people are being mean because it's his real family that is suffering. Yet he's aware of the Trump policies enough to know about the tariffs. Then he obviously knew about the attacks on marginalized communities, the attacks on immigrants, the attacks on the trans community, the attacks on the working class, the attack on our Social Security, on our Medicare, our Medicaid, the attack on the Affordable Care Act. I bet you dollars to donuts he is benefiting. If he's a small business and an independent business, I'll bet you dollars to donuts he's through his state's health exchange that was set up by the ACA, and that's how him and his family are getting health insurance. But he didn't care about any of that. He didn't care how it was affecting any other person when he voted for Trump. He just wanted to see those brown people gone and his grocery prices down and America being great again. Yet look, you fucked around, you found out, now you're feeling the pain. Don't come crying to us, expecting us to give you sympathy.
I just overheard a conversation that broke my brain. It was between 4 people, 3 of whom were Trump supporters. How do I know that? Because I heard the entire conversation. I worked in an office this morning. I don't know these people. They were in the meeting room next to me, and I heard this whole conversation. My ears were like, boop, boop. They were complaining about the tariffs. But in their entire 2-hour conversation, they didn't blame Trump or his administration or Doge or Elon for any of the craziness that they were complaining about. It was fascinating and horrifying. And they were talking about the prices of eggs and how they don't know if anything's going to sell or buyers are going to find them or whatever, and that the chaos has really caused them to lose business. You don't say. And then one woman, I don't know which woman this was. Again, I could only hear them. I wasn't seeing, I didn't know who the Trump supporters were and which one wasn't. One woman said, and I quote, "I need to get an assistant." Correction. She said, "I need to get an executive assistant, but I need them to be willing to work for $6 an hour."
$6 an hour for an executive assistant in Colorado, where minimum wage is almost 15. This is the same crowd screaming, "Nobody wants to work anymore." Nah, nobody wants to work for poverty wages while you complain about your house cleaner costs. And she's trash-talking Democratic cities while living in Denver, a blue city, benefiting from its infrastructure, its economy, its services. The audacity isn't even surprising anymore. It's just exhausting.
Let me tell you something first and foremost. I've been an executive assistant on and off throughout my adult life. The average hourly pay in the US as of April 14th, 2025 for an executive assistant is $28.70, but it's usually higher, okay? Now, we live in Colorado. She lives in Colorado, I heard her say. The minimum wage here is $14.81 for non-tipped workers. For tipped workers, it's $11.79 an hour. In Denver proper, minimum wage is $18.81. She said numerous times she needed someone to work for $6 an hour. Then, across the board, all of the four of them, I'm not saying words well, I'm all fired up. They were all complaining about their house cleaners, how much they cost. And one of them said, "Oh, did yours go up?" And they were like, "No." I mean, it was wild. Then they had a whole other portion of their conversation where they were talking about how Democratic-run cities are, and I quote, "the worst in the world." All four of them lived in Denver proper, which is a primarily blue city. It was wild. I was like, okay, what is happening here? Anyway, they talked for 2 hours, and by talked, I mean complained about everything that Trump and his administration are doing, but didn't attribute any of it to Trump. Blew my mind. Also, as an hourly paid worker, all of it was deeply offensive to me and anyone else who is paid hourly. Unreal. Also, the amount of work that an executive assistant does, it's extensive, okay, if you're a good one.
So I hear that Amazon is going to put a number next to the price of a product on their website to designate how much the tariff is. At Montana Knife Company, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a number next to the price as well. And that number is going to look a lot like the shape of this goose egg. Because we've been preaching this all along. We're American made, buy American. You don't have to worry about this shit. Buy American, make American made, and you don't have to worry about this shit.
1 week later.
2024, base price $519. July 23rd, 2025, base price $612. Couple interface upgrade, $14,900, $16,700. So this is my point, and this is what I'm getting at. We're trying to build American manufacturing. This is American-made equipment, 100% made in America.
Oh, this is beautiful. Montana Knife Company was out here gloating. Buy American, no tariff worries. 1 week later, their equipment costs jumped 20%, almost $2,000 more on upgrades. Turns out, making things in America still requires parts from not America. Supply chains don't care about patriotism. The guy's actually being reasonable about it, just asking for adjustments. But that's not how any of this works. You wanted the policy. You got the policy. All of it.
This stuff has an effect. Again, I'm questioning why is the cost of equipment to manufacture in America going up that drastically in 1 year? I'm not hating on the Trump administration. Again, I'm trying to point out that their policies need some adjustments. We should be focusing on finished goods coming in from overseas. We shouldn't be making the cost to buy equipment made in America for American manufacturers go up.
Have y'all seen the video of that Cuban Trump supporter, man, complaining about Trump after there was a video that went viral of him celebrating Trump's victory a few months ago because Trump signed an executive order that's pretty much demanding that truck drivers know and speak and can read English in order for them to be a truck driver? And guess what this guy does for a living, man? Yeah, he drives a truck, man. He hasn't just driven a truck. He's driving a truck for 20 freaking years, man. For 20 years, and now he's scared that he might lose his license because he doesn't speak a lick of English. And at that point, I mean, yo, you've been here for 20 years, man. At that point, you kind of did it to yourself, bro. But whatever, man. It points to the fact that there was a lot of Latinos, man, that were supporting Trump that I was looking at them like, I don't know, bro. I think you might want to be quiet at this, at least publicly, you know, because a lot of Latinos out there were doing certain things that, you know, when the Democrats are in control, they just look the other way. They don't really care, you know. But when the Republicans get up in there, they start shaking things down, you feel me? And now this dude is over here scared because he's like, damn, how am I gonna feed my family, bro? This is all I do. And yeah, I know that the Latinos that hate Trump are having a field day with this video, man. It's going around the internet. Everybody's telling me, you see, we told you he don't care about no Latinos. But nah, bro, come on, let's start learning English, bro. You've been here 20 years, bro. That's one thing that Latinos do that blows my mind, bro. I know people been here 40, 50 years, bro. Don't speak a lick, can't even beg in English, bro. But yeah, that was a little funny.
20 years driving trucks. 20. And now he might lose his license because he can't speak English, and he celebrated when these policies won. Look, I'll be real. 20 years with no English is a choice. But the irony, the absolute poetry of it, he thought America First had a "but I'm one of the good ones" exception. It doesn't. The policies don't have a checkbox for loyalty. You danced at the party. Now the music stopped. And you just realized you were never really on the guest list.
Egg prices are going up and food and energy costs haven't gone down. Now Trump supporters are regretting their vote for Donald Trump. Yeah, no, we're not, because we understand how the economy works and what set that off. See, Donald Trump is killing it when it comes to his executive orders, and you guys can't have it, so you're throwing out this deflection, but you're leaving out the important bits. Under the Biden administration, they slaughtered over 100 million egg-laying chickens right before Trump took office. In November and December of 2024, they ordered the slaughter of about 20 million egg-laying chickens. See, these price increases were predicted in 2024 because of that event, because when you wipe out the supply, the costs will go up if the demand doesn't change. Then we jump over to food and energy price. Well, Donald Trump's only been in office for a week. And it's interesting because when Donald Trump did the debates and did interviews, he was very clear on what you have to do to try to keep prices down, because you just can't reverse the economy like that. And you guys are now admitting that Biden was at fault for the increases. But he said you have to bring down energy costs, and you have to find efficiencies in the supply chain. So what did Biden do right before he left office? Signed an executive order on drilling and tied it directly to the 1953 Continental Outer Banks Shelf Land Act, which means they were preventing drilling from the Gulf of Mexico, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, and the North Bering Sea. See, so your president immediately went and made a move that was counterproductive to bringing your costs down, and somehow you're going to tie that to Donald Trump when these events took place before he's been in office, and he's only been there for 8 fucking days?
We understand how the economy works. Do you, though? Because this man just blamed a disease outbreak on political conspiracy. Avian flu killed those chickens, bro. Not some secret government operation. And drilling? We're already at record production. More oil than any country in history. Oil companies are businesses. They don't want to crash prices. That's literally the opposite of capitalism. But sure, keep waiting for that magic wand.
This cannot be a surprise to you, can it? Trump supporters, Trump voters are regretting their vote. NBC did an interview with a woman who's 63 years old, who's the caretaker of her 26-year-old daughter, who relies on SNAP benefits. I don't know exactly what the girl's issue is, but she relies on these SNAP benefits just to survive, day-to-day survival. She's the 63-year-old woman sitting back and saying, well, why are they doing this with the ballroom? There's $350 million being spent there. And that's supposed to be private donations, which obviously it's not, because Trump came out last week and said, well, the military is heavily involved. That's your tax dollars. That's my tax dollars. Don't tell me that's being privately funded when the military's involved. Well, this woman's starting to wonder why in the world these people are donating all this money to this ballroom that only a handful of people are ever going to be able to use, when we've got people across the country waiting for their SNAP benefits to be paid out. Now, there's a judge that came out and said you have to pay out these SNAP benefits. Didn't say when it had to be done. He said it had to be done expeditiously. Okay, well, all right, when is expeditious? A week? 3 weeks? I mean, the day before Thanksgiving? How's that going to work out? No one's ever come out and said you have to do it, and you have to do it by such and such a time. It has to be done expeditiously. And what's Trump doing? said he's going to go ahead and do it, but they don't have enough money because it costs $8 to $9 billion a month for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP benefits, EBT cards, whatever it is you want to call it in your state. Well, he's got to be able to come up with the money somewhere. The judge ordered, hey, you came up with the money to pay ICE. You came up with the money to pay the military. Come up with the money to pay the SNAP program. And you know what? He hasn't come up with a plan yet. They're all still sitting back there wringing their hands going, well, I wonder when we have to do it, if we have to do it at all. I hope you get your benefits if you're a SNAP recipient, but don't be surprised if you don't.
This one actually hurts. 63 years old, caretaker for her disabled daughter, relying on SNAP benefits to eat. And now she's watching a $300 million ballroom get built while her benefits are frozen. When you vote, you're not picking the parts you like. You're voting for the whole package, the glitter and the cuts. There's no satisfaction here, just a reminder that elections have consequences. Real ones. For real people who can't afford to learn lessons the hard way.
Have you guys seen that Trump supporter who bought all those dresses from ASOS? Now, I don't know what ASOS is. I'm not into that. I'm more of a Sonoma off the rack kind of guy. But ASOS is apparently a company in London, and this woman who voted for Donald Trump, people found her voting records and showed that she had voted for Donald Trump. And she bought these dresses from ASOS, and she received a bill for $1,200 in tariffs. And she's like, had I known that, there's no way I would have purchased these dresses from ASOS and that they were going to charge me all this. ASOS is not charging you the extra $1,200. Donald Trump, the person you picked, the person you voted for, the rat bastard you elected, charged you that $1,200. Where do you think all these billions and billions and billions of dollars were going to come from in the form of taxes? They are coming from your pocket and from mine. That's what tariffs are. We've said it until we are blue in the face. Tariffs are not paid for by the country that is selling the United States the import. The company importing the product pays the tariffs. And by pay, that's a loose term. They are going to pass that charge, that cost, on to the consumer. So you bought product from ASOS, a company outside of the United States, and you voted for a president who is deterring people from purchasing products from outside the United States. And you're surprised, you're caught off guard, you're upset that you got a bill for $1,200 from that company because they had to pay additional money for the tariffs? Sucks to be you. Fuck around and find out. That is the definition. That is the drum I will continue to beat for the next 4 years while Donald Trump is in office or alive. But if he is still alive and his heart is still beating, I will still be beating that drum because you paid $1,200 because of that orange sack of shit. Not because of ASOS, not because of London, not because of the UK, but because of Donald Trump's tariffs. That's why you paid $1,200. So you voted for it. I'm glad you're getting everything you voted for. Fuck around and find out, my friend.
$1,200 on dresses, and she's mad at the British company like they decided to charge her extra. No, sweetie, that's your tariff. From your vote. Tariffs aren't paid by other countries. The importer pays, then passes it to you. It's literally a tax on Americans, sold as punishment for everyone else. She probably can't afford an extra $1,200. Most people can't. But you wanted what you wanted, right? Well, here it is.
You won't believe the conversation I just had with the MAGA over gasoline. Here, I'll have to tell you just a minute. I'm in Fort Lauderdale. Let me tell you in a second. Got to get in the car. Can't tell you now. Okay, well, now I'm in the car. I can talk more about my little chat with this MAGA. This guy was probably 35 or 40 years old. He was wearing a MAGA hat, and he was pumping gas at the gas pump beside me. And he looks over at me, and he says, what do you think about the election? He said, we're going to make America great again. And then he goes, these gas prices, he said, they are way, way, way too high under Biden. It's all Biden's fault. He says, Trump is going to cut gas prices in half. I said, he is. I said, well, how is he going to do that? Do you know what plans or what action is Trump going to take to do that? And he's kind of stuttering and kind of, he doesn't know. I said, well, these tariffs on Canada and Mexico, where we get 63% of our oil imports of 25%, will that help lower gas prices? I said, what do you think? And he kind of looked at me like, what? And I said, that those tariffs, Canada and Mexico don't pay. The importing country pays, and those costs are passed on to you and me. And he kind of looked at me like, what? Then he goes, well, he's gonna drill. I said, he is. Well, I said, I believe the U.S. oil production right now is at an all-time record. And also there are, and I said, these oil companies, oil drilling companies, they're in business to make money, right? He said, yeah, they're in business to make money. So I said, so if you're an oil company and you're producing oil and selling oil, do you want to sell it at a lower price or a higher price? So you want to sell it at a higher price. Well, I said, well, if you're an oil company, why do you want to keep producing to the point that you are able to drop prices enough that they don't make?
Okay. How? What's the actual mechanism? Drill more. We're already at record levels, and 63% of our oil comes from Canada and Mexico, which now has a 25% tariff slapped on it. You could see the gears trying to turn in this guy's head, that moment when math meets belief. And belief starts sweating. Oil companies aren't charities. They're not crashing their own profits for you. People believe in capitalism until they have to actually understand it.
Oh my goodness, guys. Microsoft's getting crushed right now. We're down 11% after earnings. Let's cover everything that you need to know now and follow along for more. And look, it's not like their numbers were bad. Adjusted EPS came in at $4.14, which beat the $3.97 expected, and revenue also beat 81.27 versus 80.27 billion. And for next quarter's guidance, look, they're looking at $80.6 to $81.7 billion for revenue, right in line with the estimate. Pretty good there. And for cloud growth, they're looking at 37 to 38% growth, right around that 37.1 estimate. And it looks like revenue grew a little under 17% year over year. Pretty good there, right? And net income came in at 38.46 billion, up massively actually from last year's $24 billion number. And their gross margins were the narrowest they've been in 3 years, coming in just over 68%. And you might be like, Stas, why is the stock falling 10, 11%? What's going on? Well, it's because of cloud, right? The cloud growth is moderating right now, which the market doesn't like that. That's all it takes sometimes, guys. When one of the key segments, growth starts to slow down, it's moderating a little bit. That's all it takes, right? For a stock to go down. It is what it is. So for me, guys, I'm not in Microsoft right now, nor am I looking to buy the dip. Not saying it's a bad company, a bad opportunity. I'm just in other Mag 7 names, other stocks in general that I like more than Microsoft. And I don't want to have too much exposure to Mag 7, to big tech, to go and own all of them individually. I don't want to do that. So for me,
So what did we learn? Tariffs are paid by consumers. Policies don't come with loyalty exemptions, and you can vote against your own interests. Then act shocked when it hurts. These are real people. Parents, workers, dreamers. And yeah, they should have listened, but they didn't. Now they're learning the hardest lesson. The leopard doesn't care if you cheered for it. Welcome to the find out phase. Drop a comment. Karma, justice, or just economics? Like if you saw this coming. Subscribe, because we're just getting started. This is Mind Mirror. Peace.